Hi everyone, Matthew Toogood here at Konzert Theater Bern. I'd like to introduce you to the Old Maid and the Thief and the concept that I've come up with. Old Maid and the Thief by Menotti was, of course, originally written as a radio opera, and so we've taken that concept and gone a step further to make it feel a little bit like a film studio where you have a sound stage. So being able to listen and imagine that perhaps someone is having a tea or a coffee. Due to the corona regulations that we have to follow, it also means that each singer has their own individual place on the stage. It's then also with a single spotlight to really show that there is this social distancing going on. And so each singer has a stand for their music, a spot, a table with a microphone to also capture the very close sounds. You have things like money. In the piece, they rob Miss Todd's house, and so being able to hear, they also steal her jewellery. There's a lot of running upstairs, up to the veranda, so we also have different shoe sounds that, for example, Letitia running down from upstairs, or just going to the door, or running away from the liquor store that they've looted. We have street scenes. Obviously we have a bell, as if it's from the bike. There's a very, very funny scene that we have where the audience don't yet know what the sound is. It sounds simply like traffic off stage, and then it turns out when the audience does then experience what the sound is, it's actually a lawnmower just being rolled along the ground, but the wheels make the sound as if it's the trolley cars and the traffic on the street. Very subtle things. When Bob, the beggar, comes downstairs, we hear him in the slippers and his bathrobe. It's very hard to make the bathrobe have a sound, but we can at least hear the house shoes, the slippers, as he comes down. There's also a time that he's very drunk, so we have some bottles, of course, while he's singing in a drunkard way. Car horn, we're thinking of the 1940s, so a car horn like that should be suitable. We did ask if we could have a car on stage, a BMW or something, but the budget didn't allow for that. There's also things like at 2 a.m. in the morning when Miss Todd and Letitia are robbing the liquor store, we hear that it's 2 o'clock in the morning. A very common sound that we hear in Bern, of course, because there are some very loud church bells and clocks. The whole piece we've decided, because Miss Todd and her neighbour Miss Pinkerton are often mentioning how bad the weather is, we thought that we would also be able to show that to really set the scene right at the beginning of the opera. So we have this instrument, or two instruments actually. One is called Donnerblech, so a thunder sound. It's just a metal sheet basically. It sounds like thunder. And then there are a couple of different sort of instruments in the orchestra that you can use for rain. This one, kind of like a tambourine, but without the cymbals on the side, rather metal balls on the inside that go across the skin. It's quite a harsh sound. I really like it. Quite a thunderous downpour when it really gets going, and of course combined with the thunder. And so forth. Each singer obviously has their own props to look after. Bob has sort of the biggest percussive instruments, obviously, with the bell, the rainmaker and the thunder machine, and then, of course, the tractor. But the person that has the most to do is, in fact, Miss Pinkerton, played at Konzert Theater Bern by Eleonora Bacchi. She has the least to sing, but the most to do. There are some lovely things like the doorbell. She's the neighbour that always comes to visit Miss Todd, and so things like a doorbell she's in charge of. When they are looting Miss Todd's house, you've got to imagine that they're going through all her stuff, and so the props department found this wonderful little piece that has Lots of drawers, of course, when it's on the microphone and you're hearing in the microphone, it sounds like someone can be going through all the cupboards and the drawers, lots of chains and so forth. One of the first things that we hear is Miss Todd inviting Miss Pinkerton to take off her raincoat. How do you make a raincoat? Well, it's mostly plastic and a zipper. So she takes off her raincoat and puts that down when she first comes to visit. Because it's a soundstage, it's not necessarily so that the person playing the character is making the sounds. For example, Eleonora is also in charge of Letitia bringing up the breakfast tray and also having tea with Miss Todd and slurping and so forth. There are also quite a few times where there are some crashes required in the piece. So at one point she actually drops the breakfast tray rather than dropping the actual breakfast tray. She just has something like this that's already broken. And we might have something like that, which is not so difficult. When it's then something very loud, Eleonora has these to protect herself. Watch out. In the liquor store, all the bottles smash, for example. Lots of doors in this piece. So we have lots of sound effects for either different doors or different places. And what we have is two things, obviously. A physical door that we had built for this. So for knocking, for trying the lock, and when it does open, we have something like this. Thanks very much for watching. We're all looking forward to performing again now that some of the restrictions of COVID-19 have been lifted, and we're looking very much forward to welcoming you, our public, back into the theatre.